Hello everyone, NoahNovels here, and welcome back to my Revue Starlight episode discussion and analysis series. When this video is over, we'll be halfway through the anime series. Given I am going to talk about the sequel movie and a bunch of other stuff, so in the grand scheme of things, I still got plenty of review videos planned. With all that being said, let's discuss the episode that inspired me to get back into video making and voice acting, episode 6 of Revue Starlight, titled Stage Left for Two. The episode starts with a flashback to Karuko and Futaba's childhood, showing that they've had the same dynamic and relationship we've been seeing in the show for quite some time. Very briefly before the opening plays, however, we see the two of them facing each other in what appears to be a review battle, and then the opening plays. After we see Mihiru lay down the cleaning law with Hikari, we see a lot of the characters, including Karuko and Futaba, arrive at Saisho. We're then treated to a brief scene of everyone practicing tap dancing in class, with Futaba and Claudine practicing together. Once they finish, Claudine looks at Futaba with approval, and Karuko begins to wonder when Futaba got so good. As Maya responds to her, Karuko yawns, clearly not paying attention to Maya or the class it seems. A stark contrast to Futaba, who seems to be pushing herself in order to further develop her skills and talent. Before Karuko can confront Futaba about her improved tap dancing, however, it's announced that the auditions for this year's upcoming production of Starlight are now underway. The scene ends with Karuko seemingly confident that she'll only need to audition once to get a lead role, before it quickly cuts to her disappointed face upon seeing the first round of results for the main cast selection. In case this face doesn't give it away, her name's not on there. Futaba's name is though. After Futaba futilely tries to comfort Karuko by telling her to try auditioning a second time like Nana encouraged everyone to do when auditions were first announced, Karuko storms off to the stage production department, furious over her first time not receiving a lead role on a production. After the very polite stage director Masai tries to let her down easy, the respectably blunt and honest scriptwriter Amamiya tells Karuko that there's no place for her in this upcoming production of Starlight, saying that her acting felt hollow and lacked any real passion. After throwing a temper tantrum, Karuko tells Futaba to let her take her role in the show if she doesn't end up getting one. Futaba does the painfully relatable act of dodging this uncomfortable conversation by sipping the ever-loving hell out of her drink. Can't answer if you have a mouthful of drink after all. Later that night, when Karuko returns to her and Futaba's room, only to find it empty, she finds Futaba practicing tap dancing with Claudine outside, and she's not happy. Seemingly mad at Futaba's improvement with Claudine as her instructor, Karuko makes the bold claim that Futaba stole a lead role from her. Upon hearing that interesting take of Karuko's, Futaba tells Karuko what she really thinks, that she doesn't have what it takes, just like Amamiya said earlier. Futaba refuses to give her part in Starlight to Karuko because she earned it, to which Karuko calls Futaba a backstabber and tells her to stay with Claudine if she likes her so much. Futaba rolls her way into Claudine's room and declares that she'll be staying there, without even asking Claudine, I may add, how very rude of her, and Karuko, definitely not trying to put on an uncaring front, says she doesn't care. Also, this isn't important to the episode, but I love these stupid low-quality reaction faces to Futaba announcing that she's moving in with Claudine. Also, quick shout out to Karuko and Futaba's voice actresses too, Ayasa Ito and Taro Ikuta. They both do a great job in this episode. Their voices match their characters' personalities very well, they work very well off each other, and as we'll come to see in a bit, they are amazing singers just like the rest of the voice cast to this anime. The next day we see Futaba riding her motorcycle to Saisho alone, and Karuko, well, she's struggling a little bit without Futaba's steel horse. We get a brief montage showing Futaba practicing with Claudine and everyone else, and Karuko practicing alone, Futaba seeming to do really well for herself whereas Karuko seems to be struggling. In a really funny scene, during lunch, we see Karuko actually eat her green onions since she doesn't have Futaba to pass them off to like she usually does. I like this little montage of the two of them going about their daily lives apart from one another, because it does a great job of showing how they're handling their time apart, one of the two clearly having a better time of it than the other. Later that night, Karuko tries to comfort herself in the fact that even if she can't be in the production of Starlight, she can still be the lead role on the stage of Fate of the Revues and obtain the title of top star. It's a real shame that said thought is immediately followed by a short and kind of hilarious montage of Karuko's various losses throughout the Revue auditions. Karuko starts to really feel the walls all closing in on her now. She's losing out on lead roles for big school productions. She's lost the aid of her childhood friend, and she's been taking loss after loss in the Revue auditions. Instinctively, in her moment of panic and vulnerability, she looks to her side and calls out to Futaba, only to remember she's no longer there. Honestly, this moment is sad. And even though I know Karuko is kind of being a whiny jerk this episode, I still felt really bad for her in this moment and a lot of the episode, actually. To be fair, it might be out of bias because she was my favorite character just based on personality when I was first watching the show. But we'll come to see a very different and less horrible side to her as the episode progresses. One that we've already seen glimpses of and been building up to, but one that really starts to show itself here. Karuko seems to come up with an idea, and the next day at Saisho, we learn that Karuko is planning to go back to her Senkaria school in Kyoto, saying that she has nothing left to learn at Saisho. This plea for attention very obviously being a similar strategy to the one she would use as a child with Futaba, as we saw in the beginning of the episode when she said she would marry into a different family and move away from Futaba. After reveling in the attention she's getting out of everyone who are sad at her departure, Nana asks what Futaba thinks of the situation. Karuko super truthfully says that Futaba's got nothing to do with this, saying the decision was all hers. Again, not important, but I love how exasperated Claudine seems by all this, meanwhile Maya is just vibing. Later that day, Futaba confronts Karuko while she's packing, asking her if she's serious about going back to Kyoto. Karuko, happy that her plan seems to be working, says there's no use trying to stop her. Futaba berates her for leaving and giving up after losing just one audition, but Karuko uses her masterclass acting to say that has nothing to do with her leaving. After Karuko tells Futaba to keep an eye on things at Saisho for her and wishes her all the luck with her new friend Claudine, Futaba starts asking Karuko the same questions she would ask her when Karuko would do the same moving away bit when they were children. Karuko very smugly and annoyingly answers and plays along, and then Futaba just leaves, saying that Karuko seems to be all set, much to Karuko's surprise and annoyance. Back in Claudine and Futaba's room, Claudine expresses surprise that Karuko really seems to be going through with this, but she does think it's for the best since anyone not giving it their all at a place as serious as Saisho doesn't belong. She also lets Futaba know that she'll be fine on her own. After all, she did already have enough talent and skill to land a lead role in Starlight. Later that night, we get a flashback to the time when Karuko first told Futaba they would be going to Saisho together, and then we cut to the next day where Karuko seems to be ready to leave. Karuko makes it a point to loudly announce when her train will be leaving, but maybe she was drowned out by Karen's really sad, pleading cries, because Futaba does not come out to respond in any way. Maya approaches Karuko and has a really heartfelt moment with her, saying she understands how Karuko feels. Maya says that she feels a sense of responsibility for those who believe in and support her, and Karuko wants to be the best that she can be to live up to those expectations and faith people have in her. And this is all being said over a clip of Futaba clearly feeling upset and conflicted in her and Claudine's room. Karuko is noticeably taken aback by this seemingly wrong observation. I mean, she's just doing this to get Futaba's attention and love back, right? Or maybe there is something to what Maya's saying. Regardless, Karuko doesn't have time to think it over for long as Maya tells her to take care in Kyoto, and Karuko says her final goodbye to everyone present. Also, why does Karen's crying go so hard in this scene? Chill, Momoyo Koyama, you could have just phoned it in for this scene. Anyways, as Karuko waits for her train at the station, she pouts and says that everyone will regret letting her go when she's gone, but then her mind starts to wander back to what Maya said earlier. And I really love this scene. The way Karuko begins to reflect on her feelings towards Futaba and why she's been reacting the way she has been to Futaba and Claudine's partnership, mixed with the fitting visuals and beautiful background music, makes for a really powerful moment. Just listening to the background music while typing up this script was getting me to tear up, although maybe that has to do with my personal attachment to this episode. More on that in a bit. As Karuko thinks about the people who follow her, aka Futaba in this case, her self-reflective train of thought is broken by a nearby motorcycle speeding by. I like that this sound, which is obviously something we the viewers and Karuko associate with Futaba since we've seen her ride it throughout the show, is what brings Karuko back to reality. A reality where Futaba isn't following her anymore. Karuko's train arrives, and before she steps on, she wonders why Futaba hasn't come after her to stop her from leaving. And I love that it's right after this extreme close-up shot of Karuko crying that we cut to a wider shot showing Futaba, clearly out of breath, right behind her. It's very funny how sudden and jarring Futaba's appearance is, but it's used to good effect. And I love this super brief moment where Karuko first realizes Futaba did come after her. Her genuine reaction of surprise and happiness, that she quickly tries to cover up with the same uncaring and pompous attitude she's been playing, is so good. I just love the fact that, try as she may, Karuko was genuinely so happy and surprised at Futaba's arrival that she couldn't mask her feelings for a brief second. It's always fun when you get to see the truth behind a character's facade. They get into a brief shouting match where they both call each other out on stuff, but it's interrupted by everyone's favorite sound, the sound signaling the next round of the auditions. We cut to them in their stage girl attire, introducing themselves with lines about each other as characters and their relationship to one another. And the 5th day of auditions, the Revue of Promise, commences. And the song for this review? A song, or the blooming of flowers, or Hanasaka Uta, is amazing and one of my favorite songs in all of Revue Starlight. Its mix of traditional style and electro music makes this review song feel both beautiful and exciting, which is a fitting combination for the audition battle that is about to ensue between Karuko Hanayagi and Futaba Isurugi. Also, this is the first review we're seeing without Karen in it. That's not important or anything, I just found it interesting to point out. Before Karuko and Futaba begin their fighting, they each lay out their demands for if they win. If Futaba wins, she demands that Karuko will treat and take care of Futaba the way she has been for Karuko up to this point. And if Karuko wins, they're both going back to Kyoto together. As Futaba taunts Karuko, the giraffe notices that these auditions have started to become personal. And you just noticed this now? Also, I like how both of their demands do end up making it so the other is still in their life. Karuko and Futaba may not even realize it themselves quite yet, but they don't want to leave each other. And I think the way that's reflected through their victory demands is really nice. As their battle begins, both Futaba and Karuko take turns singing in the song about their relationship to one another, and their voices work really well off one another. Karuko's higher-pitched vocals with Futaba's lower singing voice makes for a beautiful and memorable song when matched with the amazing instrumentals and story-driven lyrics. At a certain point, Futaba asks Karuko if she remembers where she was placed in the entrance exam to Saisho, the answer being she was in the last place of the people accepted into Saisho. Futaba starts telling Karuko of all the things she did so they could remain together, pushing herself to the absolute limit to make it into Saisho, getting her motorcycle license because Karuko didn't want to commute by walking, and going after Karuko every time she ran off. I love how during this part of Futaba listing all the things she's done for Karuko's sake, you can really see the surprise on Karuko's face. Now you could argue that she's simply struggling to keep up in the review, but I think she's genuinely realizing for the first time how much Futaba has done so they can be together. An aspect of her life she definitely took for granted up until this point. Futaba then reminds Karuko of the promise she made to her, that when Karuko shines brighter than anyone else in the world, Futaba would be the first to see it. And you can really feel the emotion coming from Futaba in this scene. Once again, mad props to her voice actress. She does such an amazing job with the character. After knocking Karuko back, Futaba asks if Karuko remembers what Karen once said, that a stage girl evolves day by day. She calls Maya and Claudine as examples of this, that after landing lead roles, they never stopped trying. They still push themselves every day to be the best that they can be. Futaba goes on to say that everyone else is also trying to shine as bright as possible, and that she doesn't want to keep going on in Karuko's shadow. She wants to be able to stay close to Karuko as an equal, and for both of them to see their radiant shine together. And I really respect and like that about Futaba's character. I know a lot of talented people who I admire, and I know I want to be able to catch up to their level one day. Not for some petty reason like wanting to surpass them or say I'm the best at whatever it is they do, but so I can show them how far I've come thanks to how they've inspired and taught me. There's nothing wrong with just being a fan or admirer, of course, but it's not something for everyone. So I really like this aspect of Futaba's character, her desire to see Karuko's brilliance as a stage girl, but not as a bystander, as an equal. Upon hearing all this, Karuko once again seems surprised, like she's seen such a new and heartfelt side to her friend that she's never seen or noticed before. Karuko says Futaba's blossomed into a grand and beautiful flower, and that she now understands what Maya was saying to her earlier. I love the fact that Maya is so knowledgeable about all the other characters and what they're going through, that she can literally tell them what they're feeling and why, even when they haven't realized it themselves yet. Maya's seemingly expansive knowledge and understanding of what these characters are going through is a nice, subtle way of showing her experienced character. I have no doubt she's gone through a lot herself, so it makes sense that she's able to be such an understanding and helpful hand to the rest of the characters. Back to the review. Kuroko begins to throw away the match between the two of them, saying that Futaba is much more deserving of a lead role than she is. And I know I keep saying I love this or I love that, but holy crap, I love this moment. Futaba rushes over to stop her, only to be swiped at by Kuroko, happy that Futaba finally stopped her. It turns out that whole spiel by Kuroko was just an act, and quite a fantastic one at that. It managed to fool me on my first viewing of this episode, after all. The fact that Kuroko is acting to trick Futaba doesn't feel like a cheap trick or anything like that. It feels like such a fitting way for her to gain some edge in the battle. It harkens back to what Amamiya said about Kuroko's acting earlier, about it being hollow and lacking passion. This moment of Kuroko tricking Futaba is an amazing way of showing how much she's learned and changed since then, and how much passion and effort she's going to put into getting better and being the best stage girl that she can be going forward. After this, Kuroko and Futaba are taken to a very fitting backdrop for the final act to this Revue of Promise, a backdrop adorned in cherry blossoms, harkening back to the scene we saw of them as children at the beginning of this episode. With everything beautifully coming full circle, Kuroko realizes she desires to be the best that she can be, for the sake of those who follow and support her. And this actually changed my life when I first watched it. Time for a little backstory. Back when I first watched Revue Starlight, which was early 2020, I was kinda coasting by in life. At least when it came to following my dreams and passions. I was still in college, but I was kinda burnt out, and when I wasn't working at my part-time job or doing homework, I was either just watching anime or playing visual novels. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, I love both of those things. But I had a lot of dreams and ambitions. I wanted to be a voice actor, and I wanted to make engaging videos about visual novels and anime. And yet, I didn't make any active effort to actually do either of those things. I just kinda assumed it would come in time. I was waiting for it to come to me instead of making it happen myself. But then I started watching Revue Starlight, and on my first watch of the series, I was pretty much just thinking, wow, this is a pretty good and unique show. But then I got to this episode and something felt different. I saw glimpses of myself in Kuroko, her coasting by and not really giving it her all in her time spent at Saisho or in the Revue auditions. Was I really doing the same thing? And then instead of auditioning again for the lead roles or trying harder in the Revues, she decides to just give up and run away? Even if the running away part was more of a show to get Futaba's love and attention, which is obviously not something I can personally relate to. I have definitely given up on many things in the past when I found them to be too difficult, sad as I am to admit that. Guitar, karate, and singing lessons. All things I engaged in briefly before deeming the effort to be too much for me to handle. Hell, I even used to do YouTube before this channel, given they were cringy Sonic videos, but those videos were still things I was very passionate about. And I eventually dropped it, around 2014 or 2015. And with all those memories and feelings flooding back to me while watching this episode, I found such resolve in what Kuroko said. In order to live up to the hopes and expectations of those around her who believe in her, she needs to try her hardest to be the best version of herself and get better day by day. That line really resonated with me, and I started to think about everyone in my life who's helped and supported me. My friends who have always been supportive and encouraging of my creative pursuits, my teachers and mentors over the years who have helped me sharpen my skills, and of course my parents. The parents who paid for my education, who have always encouraged me to follow my dreams, who, even after quitting so many of the things I said I wanted to do like guitar, karate, and singing, still genuinely saw my potential and believed in me. I can't just let them down, right? And let me clarify something real quick. I do not think it's healthy to live your entire life focused on the expectations or beliefs of others. Live life however you wish, so long as you're not doing anything morally wrong and you're not hurting others or yourself. That's how I view things. That being said, I don't think it's inherently wrong to want to be able to meet the trust and faith people have placed in you either, so long as you see it as more of an aspiration or a goal of sorts, and not an unhealthy obsession you let control your life. And I think for someone like me, who, despite being helped in numerous ways by so many people throughout my life, was just squandering all of that help and trust by doing nothing, I think it's okay to want to live up to people's expectations. I've been told by many relatives and friends that I am going to make it one day. And while I may not know exactly what make it is in that context, I can at least try my best, right? So yeah, corny as it may be to say, hearing that line genuinely changed my life. I realized I shouldn't just be sitting by, doing nothing, and expecting to achieve success or fulfillment someday in the future. After the episode ended, I decided that 1. I would finish the show, one of the best decisions I have ever made, might I add, and 2. I would get back into video making, starting with making a review of whatever visual novel I was playing at the time once I finished it. And what do you know? If you look to see when the first video on this channel was uploaded, it was early 2020, around the same time I first watched Revue Starlight. Given the video wasn't perfect, I was recording the narration on my phone and doing the editing on a laptop that would crash multiple times while editing, but I did it. And I am still doing it. Well, not video editing specifically right now, that's being handled by OtakuBox, but I am still making these scripts about Revue Starlight and visual novels despite the pain in my right hand while using the computer for long stretches of time. And there have also been times where I've gotten burnt out or lost my way as well. I mean, I barely uploaded anything in 2022. And this year, 2023, was looking to be the same until, funnily enough, Revue Starlight once again motivated me. This time it was the announcement that a Revue Starlight visual novel was being made. And since then, I've had a pretty active year on this channel. To be fair, the amount of uploads is in great part due to the fact that OtakuBox and Prof.Giver, who is the editor for my 2 review videos on the AI The Somnium Files games, are as quick as they are skilled when it comes to editing, which has allowed me to have a greater amount of videos than when I would slowly edit them by myself. But I'm getting off track. Like I said, I've had ups and downs since Revue Starlight first motivated me to really start chasing after my dreams and passions again. But what matters is that for every time I've stopped or given up, I picked myself back up and started again. You could say I was reborn, much like Karen was at the end of episode 1, and I have this drive and motivation thanks to Revue Starlight. That's why I've said before that this series has changed my life. I wasn't exaggerating. I genuinely do not know what I would be doing with my time and my life overall if it wasn't for this series. And I still have a ways to go. I want to continue making videos about this wonderful series and the various other Revue Starlight media there is. I want to keep making visual novel reviews, I want to keep pursuing voice acting, and there's a lot of other things I want to do too. I have a lot of goals, dreams, and ambitions, and so long as I have the lessons I've learned from Revue Starlight, I think I'll be able to keep pursuing them to the best of my ability. Now that I'm done with that personal tangent that no one asked for, let's start wrapping things up in this video. After Karuko realizes she needs to be the best stage girl that she can be for the sake of Futaba and everyone else who believes in her, she rushes towards Futaba and wins the Revue of Promise, concluding the 5th day of auditions. In this beautiful looking scene afterwards where both Karuko and Futaba share the spotlight, the two reaffirm their rekindled relationship with one another, and we cut to the next morning where we see that Karuko has actually woken up before Futaba, and is already wearing her helmet, much to Futaba's surprise. Clearly, Karuko has changed and learned a lot from the events of this episode, and I love actually getting to see that she's making an active effort to not be as reliant on Futaba as she was. The rest of the girls wake up, and we see that both Claudine and Maya were left gifts by Futaba and Karuko respectively. Maya's gift from Karuko also containing a note that says, "I will not give in," showcasing both a friendly rivalry with the fellow stage girl who helped her realize how much Futaba mattered to her, and her newfound determination to be the top star of both Saisho and the Revues. Also, look how genuinely thrilled Maya is at this gift. I think this is the most noticeably happy we've seen her in the show up to this point. And even though the gift only has one piece of candy in it, seeing Maya happy makes me happy, so we're all good. The episode ends with Karuko and Futaba riding away on her motorcycle, the two of them determined to become the best in the world. And it's just so damn satisfying to see them together and happy again after the events of this episode. As usual, we're treated to another version of Fly Me to the Star with Karuko and Futaba singing, and there's only so many ways to say I like the same song over and over again, but I really enjoyed hearing both Karuko and Futaba's vocals work off each other in this version. Just like when they were singing together in Hanasaka Uta, their different pitches create a really pleasing to listen to contrast. It's a pretty rendition of the song, what can I say? After the ending credits though, we are treated to one brief scene that sets up the next episode quite nicely. While some whimsical music plays in the background, the giraffe is watching over Nana Daiba in the underground theater stage area thing that the reviews take place in as she talks about some sort of repeat performance. And next to her is the script to the previous year's performance of Starlight and a photo of the cast from the production. As always, thank you so much to everyone watching these videos. I'm glad to have the series going again, and I look forward to making my way through the rest of the series. From here on out, my plan for the Revue Starlight videos on this channel is to make and release one in between every one of my usual visual novel related videos. I'm not saying this will definitely be the case. Depending on the situation or what mood I'm in, I may end up with 2 Revue Starlight videos in a row, or maybe 2 shorter visual novel videos, or maybe some other upload schedule entirely. I'm just saying the plan as of now is to have one of these Revue Starlight discussion and analysis videos between every other video of mine. And then once I finish this series, the plan is to make a spoiler-free review and analysis of the anime overall for anyone who hasn't seen it and wants to know what the series is about before hopping in, some sort of video on both the recap movie and of course the sequel movie, videos going over other Revue Starlight media such as the stage plays and manga, and anything else related to this wonderful franchise that I can think of. Hopefully the Revue Starlight visual novel will get some sort of English release, in which case you know I will be covering that. And if not, well, maybe that's the push I need to finally start learning Japanese. Getting back to the point though, I want to share my thoughts on this beautiful and unique series that has changed my life with everyone, and I hope you all continue to enjoy me doing so. If you want to see my future Revue Starlight content, or any of the other visual novel and anime related stuff I upload here, please consider subscribing to my channel and checking out some of my other videos. And please tell me down below in the comments of this video what you thought of my analysis or interpretation of episode 6 of Revue Starlight. Is there anything I missed? Anything you disagree with? Or anything I mentioned in this video that you want to expand upon? In case me saying it over and over again in these videos and my social media hasn't hammered in the point, I do quite enjoy Revue Starlight, and would love to talk about it with everyone, especially since, despite me having rewatched this show a decent amount of times already before doing these videos, I'm sure I didn't catch everything in this episode due to how much there is to take in with this intricate and captivating series. So please, feel free to show me up and take away my title of that guy who talks about Revue Starlight too much. At least I'll be able to keep that title at my job. And as always, thank you to OtakuBox for your great editing on these videos. A link to his channel is in the description, and he has a lot of great and interesting content that I highly recommend checking out. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I wouldn't have been able to get this Revue Starlight video series as far as I have without you, and I really appreciate your work. And to anyone watching, please feel free to check out his channel. Thanks again to everyone watching, I'm happy to be talking about Revue Starlight again, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.